Well, good morning, good evening, good afternoon, Notre Dame fans, whatever time of the day that you are tuning in to this week's Mike Goolsby Show. Just thankful that you guys are making us a part of your day. I'm Mike Singer, recruiting guy and YouTube guy here at Blue and Gold, and joined by the former Notre Dame linebacker and captain himself, Mike Goolsby. Mike, the setup, every time I see you, bro, the setups just keeps looking better and better, man. It's
Yeah.
big time production we finally got going on, man.
Hey, man, it's a big time program, Mike. It's a big time program, and yeah, just trying to put a better product out there, dude. I'm still figuring out the acoustics in the room. I got some like an hour ago. Finally, I got these Amazon sound panel things I'm working with. Well, I have yet to get them all up, but they're thrown about the room. So hopefully the audio gets better and better as well. So yeah, man, happy to be here. I feel like I haven't seen you in a minute, dude.
I know. I feel like we got a good bit to catch up on.
Mhm.
Yeah, so we're gonna talk Notre Dame quarterback situation. I think Gouldsby, you built even more of a brand for yourself than you already had with your quarterback takes in 2023. So I'm really looking forward to seeing what you've got for us in 2024. We're going to talk about about a dozen or so guys that are in a make or break season, and then we're just going to go inside the mind of Mike, whatever else Mike Goolsby has on his mind in the world of Notre Dame football, recruiting, whatever is on Mike's mind. So inside the mind of Mike, TM pending. So
I like it.
we'll always mention, folks, please hit the thumbs up on this video, subscribe to our YouTube channel for more content. Go to blueandgold.com, your home for Notre Dame football and recruiting coverage. And our offer for our YouTube audience and podcast audience is $1 for 2 months using the promo code UND1. So if you're a new subscriber, you have not signed up for Blue and Gold before our website, use the promo code UND1. It's just $1 for 2 months. And please follow Mike Goolsby on Twitter at Mike Goolsby41. He's got his Patreon link in his Twitter bio, so you can check out the awesome work that he does with John Kennedy, which I had to cancel last week's show for this and me hopping on your show with John. So we're going to need to reschedule that. So have your people talk to my people, Mike.
We got time, brother. Love that. Yeah, it's always fun to get a group together. So yeah, we'll figure it out.
So yeah, Mike, let's just talk quarterbacks, man. I'm going to pull up your notes because you did have a good bit that you want to discuss, kind of with the Irish rat with the quarterback position, whether it's Carr and Jelly, and I know you're a big Kenny Minchie guy.
Well, it's the off season for one, right?
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of the discourse surrounding the quarterback, it's always just interesting to look at how people perceive things, the way people's minds work, et cetera. So, Riley Leonard is your presumed starter. Okay. There's a significant amount of NIL cash involved. He's got a nice little resume. He's got a very high ceiling, et cetera. But then beyond Riley Leonard, it's kind of up in the air, dude. And it's like Angeli is your presumed number 2. Everybody's excited about CJ Carr. And fans are only going to get more excited about CJ when they get to see him at the microphone, be interviewed, et cetera. Like Notre Dame fans are just going to eat that kid up. I mean, they're going to be a big, big fan. Similar in the way that like people were with Sam Hartman. Like I really can foresee very easily fans falling in love with CJ, and it's a good thing. But then there's Kenny Minchie, who tends to, for lack of a better expression, kind of get swept under the rug, Mike. And it's like, well, I hope Kenny doesn't transfer. It's never, I hope CJ doesn't transfer. It's never, I hope Steve Angeli doesn't transfer. It's like presumed that Kenny's going to kind of be the odd man out. Would you agree with that overall assessment, Mike, that that's the way most fans tend to look at this?
Yeah, I would agree. Yeah, Minchie does not get talked about very much.
No. And John and I went in depth into this in the Patreon, just trying to, figure out how people's minds work, why they think the things that they think, why they assume the things they assume. And it's like, you're the recruiting guy. When Kenny was, offered and then committed, I mean, it was at the 11th hour, right, Mike? I mean, it felt like it was the last month or so of recruiting season.
Yeah, when he committed to Notre Dame, it was like a month before National Signing Day. And it was not really known that much publicly before, like maybe a week before is when people kind of found out that Notre Dame was recruiting him. He took an official visit. And then I think it was the Boston College game. Then a week, maybe 3 days later or so, a week later, he committed. So yeah, there wasn't a whole lot of time for Notre Dame fans to kind of like, for the lack of a fall in love with the player. Whereas CJ Carr, it was Notre Dame offered him what, 3 years ago. He's been committed for
exactly.
Yeah,
exactly. So it's like it's 90-day fiance with Kenny Minchey. It's like 30-day fiance with Kenny Minchey, and it's like there's a 2-3 year courtship with CJ Carr, the coaches, the Notre Dame fan base, whatever. So I think it's like, and then on top of that, you've never really seen Kenny play, and then you could make the same argument for Steve. I mean, save for the bowl game and any like garbage time that he had prior to. And then, of course, everybody's drooling over CJ Carr. So I was just up one night thinking about that. And then I started getting into some tape, watching some CJ tape. And I think it's important to remember that Kenny Minchey's late commitment, late signing, late recruitment, et cetera, all hinged off of that Dante Moore debacle, right?
correct.
Yeah, where he had a silent commit and then he kind of like left us. And he's on his third school now. And then it's like, Kenny Minchey's film looks eerily similar to Dante Moore. And I never got the impression that Kenny played the recruiting game, Mike, and you know about this. I don't think that Kenny really was interested in the recruiting process, playing the game as much as Dante was. Kenny was a super high recruited kid, top 10 quarterback, again, very similar to a CJ Carr. And then it's just, again, like I get into the tape. I like Kenny's tape. I like CJ's tape. All I'm trying to say, folks, is just don't write off Kenny Minchey going into the spring. And this is where the studio's coming along together, Mike. I'm still working on my tinfoil hat, right? I've yet to put that together. But this is my tinfoil hat thing here. Den Brock, our new OC, did not recruit Steve Angeli, did not recruit Kenny Minchey. Beyond that, furthermore, he did not recruit CJ Carr. So I don't believe that Denbrock goes into this spring with any sort of assumptions. It should be a clean slate for all of them. On top of that, it's a new offense, whereas Parker was kind of, just picked up where Coach where Coach Reese had left off.
Yeah.
Sorry. So there's that. And then it's, again, the tinfoil hat thing. You got to look a year or two into the future. Coach Denbrock will have recruited Deuce Knight. Technically speaking, he will build a relationship with Deuce Knight over the next 12, 16 months.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like Deuce is a stud, Mike. I mean, we know this. I mean, he could be like first pick overall type potential, just in terms of like the athlete that he is and the ceiling that he has, the projectables. And it's like if CJ Carr were to become your starter, that kind of gets a little bit of messy with Deuce down the road, where it's like if Kenny was your starter, say next season, not 2024, 2025, if Kenny's your starter in terms of years of eligibility, et cetera, it makes it an easier transition into a Deuce Knight versus, Kenny gets lost in the shuffle, he transfers out, et cetera. CJ Carr starts in like 2025, and then he's got 3-4 years of eligibility left. How are you going to squeeze Deuce in? How are you going to work Deuce in? Okay. Does that make sense, that argument I'm trying to build here?
I think when you have it in back-to-back years, Carr 24, Knight 25, it's probably a one or the other thing in terms of who's going to be the guy at Notre Dame. Usually it's going to go, you're going to skip a couple classes, right? Between starters. So knock on wood, Leonard's the guy at 2024, and starts the entire season. No injuries against what we're knocking on wood.
Sure.
So you're thinking, 25, 26 Minchey, and then 2 or 3 years of Deuce Knight? Is that what you're thinking? something like that.
That's kind of what I'm thinking. Versus if CJ won the job in 2025, you're going to have CJ, I mean, for 3-4 years, right? And
Right.
then is Deuce is a type of talent, and and Deuce is another one of those kids that's really going to probably need some game reps to continue to fully develop and learn how to process, etc. So it's just, and when I think about, who is that number 2, who's even the number 3, Denbrock coming in, he's not familiar with Steve, Kenny, and or CJ for that matter. Deuce would kind of be Denbrock's guy. Deuce is the guy that most closely resembles like a Jaden Daniels in terms of, Heisman #1 offense, whatever. So, I mean, you could draw a line between Denbrock wanting Deuce and then trying to sidestep or avoid any quarterback controversy if CJ Carr kind of became the guy. So it just, all of that to me, loosely jumbled together, kind of makes sense for Kenny to be the backup and be the successor to Riley Leonard in 2025.
Mike,
just a thought.
Yeah. So when you've really come to, I mean, you've come to like Minshew now, but you always have. So you're just watching like senior film, like you're going back to high school, like senior, junior film, all that stuff.
That's all I got to work off of, right?
Yeah.
The ones I can say this, Mike, what jump started this thought process in my brain was I think it was some clips of the bowl practice. CJ Carr's an early enrollee. He was there for the bowl game. And it was just a little warm up, what you guys are allowed to film at a practice, basically warm ups. And I was just looking at like CJ Carr's release point, and it could have just been a fluky thing. Who knows what type of pass they were throwing? I wasn't there. But I'm just watching that ball come off of CJ's ear. Nice quick release, all that, average arm. I mean, doesn't have a rocket arm, accurate. But that release point was super low, and they were side by side. And Kenny's release point was just like higher to me. And then if you let your mind go, bro, it's like, look at all of our offensive line, look at all of our offensive line recruits. I mean, bro, they're 6'7", 6'8". Not all these kids are going to end up being tackles. Some are going to get kicked into guard, center, what have you. See what I'm talking about? The ball comes out higher.
Yeah, I'm trying to come at
look at that. You can see that. Great
trying
work,
to just
dude.
find a good angle. Yeah.
I mean,
maybe. Yeah. I as soon as you started talking about that clip, I was like, man, I'm pretty sure we shot that. So
there you go.
Yeah.
So you gotta, it's just food for thought. That's why I'm here, Mike. It's just food for thought.
Yeah.
I mean, they're throwing the same ball, to the same guys, same trajectory, whatever. And it's much, much higher. So it's just, and then you get into like the spring in general and the competitions across the board. It doesn't necessarily, this isn't exclusive solely to quarterback play. We talked about this last spring with Tyler Buckner and Sam Hartman. What are the criteria for the offensive staff, Coach Gino, Coach Denbrock, even Freeman? Like, what are they looking for in terms of the metrics? What is the criteria? What are the rules to the game? So it's like, as these kids go into this competition, how are they being graded? And I would love if we could learn that publicly. These are the 5 to 10 things that these kids are being graded on.
Yeah. Physically speaking, Mike, between the 3, I mean, I would say Carr. Dude, let me pull up this picture again of CJ Carr because, I mean, he should be in high school right now, and he's got the beard. Like, it looks like his face is filled out. Listed at 6'3", 197. All 3 of them, dude. I mean, he's listed at 6'3", 197. You got Minchie at 6'2", 204, and Angeli 6'2", 206. And they did do away with the half or 3/4, I think, in this new roster that they put out. So Angeli is closer to 6'3" than he is 6'2", and I think Minchie is the same. Carr might be 6'3" and 1/8, and and Jelly might be 6'2" and 3/4. I don't know. I feel like they're rounding down here, but and regardless, they all look to have pretty good size. There's
Mhm.
no, quarterbacks on this roster right now where each time you talk about them, they shrink an inch, like your favorite, ex quarterback for the Irish who ended up transferring to Arizona State. But any thoughts on that, Mike? Like size wise, it seems to be a pretty good looking group.
Yeah. The only thought I have, and this is part of the reason I think that fans are excited or were excited and they're kind of glomming onto Steve, is in the prior recruiting room, Steve looked like a gosh darn giant out there, at standing 6'3". I mean, he's much bigger he's bigger than Buckner. He was bigger than Hartman, obviously bigger than Pine. He looked like a giant. I have a buddy. I actually had him on the Patreon, a former teammate of mine, Jared Clark, who's down in Florida, just won a high school state championship, played quarterback for the Irish, transferred to tight end, talking a little bit about Denbrock because, he was coached by Denbrock. But Jared had seen CJ at one of these passing tournaments, 7-on-7 type deals. And Jared, who's 6'4"-ish, Jared said that CJ looked to be 6'1". And then you get into you hear people talk about don't put a lot of stock into the website, like Notre Dame's website in terms of listed heights and weights and stuff like that. So we'll find out. I mean, I'll be at the spring game. And they let us watch a practice or whatever. So I'm literally going to be running around just trying to stand next to all these kids, quarterbacks, other players, just to kind of gauge how big or small they are, So
Yeah,
that'll play itself out.
yeah. The one thing I'll say about the Notre Dame and how they list their guys on the roster, because I've covered a bunch of different schools in my time in this business, is Notre Dame usually is closest to being truthful to their
Okay.
representation. Maybe that's changing because they did, again, I'm pretty sure they did away with the halves. I'm gonna just pull up their roster. And yeah, there's no 6'2" and a half, 6'3" and 1/4. It's just rounded numbers. So I don't know, but might
Yeah.
not be that important in the grand scheme
It
of
remains
things.
to be seen. I mean, I think physical stature obviously matters. For durability. I mean, even a guy like Riley Leonard, who's been nicked up from time to time. What is he? 6'4", 215. He looks heavier than 215 to me. But when you're looking for a projectable starter, I equate at times size, weight with durability. So I mean, if you've got 200-pound kids running around, might that lead to more injuries?
Yeah,
Perhaps.
you got size and weight for durability, and then just whatever history you have. Of
Yeah,
course, that plays into it as well. Mike, can I put you on the spot for something? Do you mind?
please do.
How long do you think Denbrock might stay at Notre Dame? Again, folks, if you are like, how dare you talk about that right now? Guys, it's January 29th. What the hell do you want us to talk about? We're trying to have some fun here. So, Ghouls, I mean, when Notre Dame hires Harry Hiestand, it's not forever. There's a shelf life there. Al Golden comes in. Mike, every damn day on the Loose Emoji message board, people are asking, did Golden sign an extension? Is Golden staying? People, because people know, he wants to go be an NFL DC or a college head coach somewhere. What's your gauge on Denbrock? Do you think Denbrock, this is, man, I just want to be at Notre Dame. Do you think he might have aspirations to do something else? I don't know, Mike. I'm just curious if you had any thoughts on this.
Yeah. I don't think he's going anywhere. I don't think he's going anywhere. And I'll talk to him at spring. He was at Notre Dame, his first go around at Notre Dame, not his second. This is now his third, but his first go around, I was there. So I'll talk to him at spring. But I don't think he's going anywhere, dude. Based off of some folks that I've talked to, not in the building, just general, talk. I don't think he's going anywhere. And it's as much as we as fans try to be skeptical and kind of protect our hearts, and we always expect the worst, as Notre Dame fans, hope for the best, but you kind of expect the worst. I don't think he's going anywhere, man. I mean, he's made a ton of money. Notre Dame's paying him a ton of money. he's getting up there in age, and it's like the bigger question is, Singer, for all of us watching, is it okay to like let yourself believe that a coach came here to win a damn national championship and then he wants to ride off into the sunset? Is that okay for us to like just let yourself consider that? It's his third time coming back here. He believes in Freeman. The recruiting's on the uptick. I don't see him going anywhere. I really don't. Never been an NFL guy. He could have been a head coach by now. I've been around the guy. He doesn't strike you as a head coach type in terms of like the accompanying ego, etc. He's just like, he's a good dude and he's just a ball coach. I think this is a huge blessing for him. I don't see him going anywhere. I don't. I really don't.
Can you share any memories you have of, your time playing at Notre Dame and him being there?
The thing it was, man, and Jared and I talked about this, it was just like, he's just a good dude. He can, frankly, Mike, unassuming, happy to be there. And that sounds strange to say, like happy to be there, but I think grateful for the opportunity, kind of blends in, not like an alpha type, Reese, Coach Reese, much more of an alpha type, much more of a curmudgeon. Reese is whatever he is, 32 years old, going on 62 in terms of like, filled with piss and vinegar. Denbrock's a guy, you saw him laughing a lot, cracking jokes. Just a good dude, man. I don't have any like specific memories,
Sure.
but I can just remember him being around, kind of blending in, and not a yeller. You know what I'm saying? Not a yeller. Jared talked about that, more of a teacher. So, he's got a background with tight ends. He's at tight end U. So, I don't see him going anywhere, man.
Yeah. And you like that Notre Dame has a dedicated quarterbacks coach and not an OC quarterbacks coach like you have so much across the country. Like, I would say that's what 90% of schools, their OC is their quarterbacks coach. Notre Dame doesn't have that again. And I like that. And I think Gino does a really good job.
Yeah. No, this is another fun exercise. Gino talked about this. Gino was actually on his recruiting visit to Notre Dame when I was there. So they linked him up with Matt LaVecchio, who was our quarterback at the time. I think Gino is thrilled to be at Notre Dame. If you look at Gino's bio, that guy was playing like Arena 2 football, ostensibly for free. They don't have insurance for guys that play like Arena 2 football. That's how much Gino loves football. He's willing to go play like Arena 2, risk injury, whatever. So, and I think that Riley Leonard has a lot of physical tools, but he's still there's room to grow there at the quarterback position. I'm labeling him as an athlete playing quarterback. So it should be a really fun opportunity for Gino to develop Riley. And then going way back into like our initial conversation in terms of, how is this the backup to the backup going to shake out in the quarterback room? It's like, what is Coach Denbrock going to look for at the position in terms of like a skill set and traits? And he's got a mixed bag with the existing room. But, Deuce Knight is kind of the picture perfect quarterback for a Mike Denbrock offense.
Yeah. Matt LaVecchio comes from one of the best high school programs producing quarterbacks.
This is true.
You got Matt LaVecchio, you got Steve Angeli. I don't know if you guys have heard of my boy, but yeah. Good points, Mike. You ready to move into make or break time?
Yeah. Do you want me to set this up?
I got you.
All right.
I got the list. I got to pull up. So what we're basically going to do here is there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. I think we got an even 10, Mike, of guys who this is not their first season at Notre Dame. They're in a position where it's like, all right, are you going to become a starter or at least just like a notable contributor for this Fighting Irish team? Or are you going to slide down the depth chart, be one of those spring transfers if things don't go well in March and April? So we're setting the stage right there, Mike. Okay. We're going to go to first Jason Anye, 6'5", 286 pounds. When he was being recruited back in the class of 2020, he's like, all right, is he a DN? Is he an interior guy? Yeah, he's a big boy. 3 tech all the way. I'm presuming, Mike. What are your thoughts about Jason Anya heading into this season? Again, this is going to be his 4th year at Notre Dame.
I can remember his film, and I'll try to be brief with these guys. A lot of talk last fall camp about Anya, very vocal, right? Kind of a goofball, but in a good way at practice, kind of a hype man type thing. And he played this year, but he never really like produced. So it's like we're going to hear again about how vocal he is and he flashes at practice, but with Rubio now leaving the team, it just really kind of creates a window of opportunity, a bigger window of opportunity for him. And he's got a lot of physical tools. If he's 290 pounds, I played with a guy like this. Daryl Campbell was a big shot recruit, 6'5", 295, 6-pack abs, had arms down to his knees. I mean, just a freak show. You know, if you were going to create a player in Madden, it would look something like these two. And it's kind of just a put up or shut up year for him, you know, and then you look at the talent behind him. It's just kind of a make or break year for him. You threw out that transfer word, that dirty word transfer. I'm not suggesting that any of these kids are transferring, but it's like these kids have to have that inner dialogue over winter conditioning going into spring. Like, dude, I gotta make it happen. That's where I'm at. Because then again, you're going to lose Mills, you're going to lose Cross beyond this year, and it seems like there's a vacuum there, and somebody's got to fill it.
Yeah. Moving to the running back position, Jabran Payne, he's going into his 3rd season at Notre Dame. What are your thoughts on this young man?
I mean, he'll probably get passed up, dude. I mean, there's a ton of talent between Price and Love and Kedron Young coming in. You still got Ford. There's just a ton of running backs. There's 5 that played: Payne, Ford, Estime, Price, and Love. So, and then you got 2 more. So Estime's out the door. You got 2 more coming in. They're not going to play 6 running backs. And this is, Denbrock's calling the shots now. Nothing really changed from Reese to Parker just because of the way that all went down, him just kind of being pushed into that role. And, Payne's kind of your 3rd down back. He's a guy, I don't know what to tell you. He's a good little player, but if that kid, I just said we're not talking about transfers, but I don't know what the role is for him going forward just because of, you got Aeneas Williams coming in and Kedron Young. That to me, they're better players already. So he's really going to have to flash, do something during the spring, but there's definitely a logjam there.
I don't feel like, we're not here to speculate on guys leaving, but I do think it's okay to throw it out there. The transfer portal's there for the players. So like if you are not happy in your playing time or whatever it is, you can go anywhere. And I think Anya, Payne, all these guys, they can leave and play right away. They don't have to wait. The days of sitting out a year are basically over. Now guys can just get waivers even if they are undergrads. So that's actually really something interesting, though. A lot of guys are leaving after their 1st season. And then if they want to leave again before they're undergrads, we'll see if they get waivers or not. But
if you just really break it down, because he was our 3rd down back, was he that exceptional at 3rd down where it's like, okay, he is our etched in stone 3rd down back for 2024? It's like, okay, well, we're just going to relegate him to this exclusive 3rd down back role. And that means that Price, Love, Ford, freaking Aeneas Williams, and Kedron Young are all vying for the other 2-3 downs. It doesn't compute to me.
Yeah.
So it's like, Kedron Young at his size, Aeneas Williams being the pass catcher that he is, and he's a thickly built kid, already bigger than Payne. It's just it doesn't look super promising for me with Payne.
Yeah, Chris in the chat says if Notre Dame were to lose a player like Payne, shows how far the program's come at running back, which It really has. You think,
Oh, sure.
Jafar Armstrong a few years ago was like your number one running back, and they had to convert him from receiver to running back, if my memory calls me correctly. So, yeah, for sure. All right, one of your favorite players on the team. I got to stop saying that because it's not a good joke, and it's not in good taste. But Deion Colsey, a guy you've been critical of. You've said, I want to say, that you didn't think he'd play for Notre Dame this fall. Do I recall that correctly, Mike?
When he got nicked up, we're going back to 2023 season. He got nicked up. I said more than once, I'm like, I don't think we'll ever see him play again. And I'm still kind of standing by it.
Okay.
And it's just like, isn't it weird, Mike, like in this weird role, this podcasting media role that I'm in, it's like I feel more comfortable being more critical of older players than you would be a younger player, right? I think that's fair. But I go back, and Tim Hyde and I talked about this, going back to Deion's high school film. And this sounds crazy, but he didn't seem like a kid to me that loved football. And that came through the screen to me. And I don't care. That's just what I saw. And I remember talking to Tim about that. And he was just kind of a run underneath it, run and catch it guy. So yeah, it's either like this spring, it's like, again, similar story with Payne, what have you. It's like there's talent coming in behind you. You couldn't fight through whatever injury you had. He's a guy to me that's going to use that degree, put it on his LinkedIn profile, played football at Notre Dame, now go into business or whatever. And I wish him all the luck in the world, but I've just never really been impressed with the kid. So, it feels icky to even say that, but I mean, I never saw the tempo in the high school film and when the in-game action in college. Like I just never saw the drive that you would see with a freaking Great House, or you would see with a Rico Flores, Jaden Thomas, that kind of level of compete. I never saw it. And then as the talent stacks up behind him, I don't think you can learn how to compete overnight. I think that's something that's in your DNA, and I don't think that that's something you can coach. And beyond that, if you don't have it, your coach themselves is going to move on. Find me somebody else that wants to play.
Notre Dame fans, if you have not done so yet, please hit the thumbs up on this video. Subscribe to our YouTube channel for more content. BlueandGold.com is your home for Notre Dame football and recruiting coverage. Our offer for you guys is that $1 for 2 months deal when you use that promo code UND1. So please do check that out over at BlueandGold.com. The next guy, Mike, is someone who I know pretty well, having played with his dad. And he is from more of your neck of the woods. That's Eli Raridan, who's in Des Moines, Iowa, Valley High School. Listed at 6'7", 248 pounds. ACL injury as a senior, basketball, which kind of delayed his season. And then, Mike, it can be trouble for me try to remember all the injuries and whatnot. But then he got hurt again, right? Sophomore year?
Correct. Yeah.
So, yeah, he should be healthy, knock on wood, going into a big junior season.
Yes, and this is the prior names we talked about was kind of like a glass half empty type scenario singer. With Eli, it's glass half full. Beyond that, all of our favorite football movie, The Program, it's like the plate is at the table, dude. Eli's running around putting his head through car windows. Like the plate is at the table. Mitch Evans had a hell of a year. He got nicked up with a knee, and it's just like, dude, everything you hear about his testing numbers, like his 10-yard dash is like a 1.4 something. And for a kid his size, it's like almost defies like physics, how fast he is with like his 40 and his, in particular, his 10, which is indicative of how explosive he is. But the plate's at the table, man. And the kids that are behind him, the healthier kids that are behind him, with Holden Stays transferring out, all those other guys behind him are smaller. They're that 6'3" range. They're going to be probably a little bit better, like intermediate kind of route runners, whereas Eli can really go up and get the ball. He can really stretch the field. you have something to say, Mike?
Not right now. I will when you're
Yeah.
done.
So I don't know. I mean, Eli's just a kid I'm super excited about. And like just the arrows pointing up, and he's like next in line.
As much as my wife makes fun of me for this, a big thing that I love about this line of work is just like that eyeball test when you see the kids. And I know you love this too, Mike.
Oh,
I
yeah.
remember meeting Deuce Knight at his high school a couple weeks after he committed. And I was just stunned. I was like, how just big people. Like you can be tall, but then there's just like, oh, you're a large. You got this big frame. You're wide. All those kind of things. Shake Deuce Knight's hand. I'm like, oh my gosh, like you can palm 2 basketballs, like with just one hand, like just a monster dude. Eli, that he when I met him for the first time going into his senior season, that was like one of those whoas. Like he's just different. He's built different, as the kids say, man. So
I was at I had the same, Mike. I had the same.
Is that a camp,
reaction.
right? You saw him at a camp
it was
or
like
something?
a workout camp
Yeah.
showcase thing or whatever, and he was in town. And I was talking to his dad, and his dad's a big guy. His dad's probably 6'7". His dad was a tackle.
Mm-hmm.
And then, I'm looking over here or whatever, and then here comes Eli, and he introduces me to Eli. And I was like, holy shit.
Yeah.
I was like, and I'm 6'4", like 260 pounds. Like I'm a big guy in my own right. And meeting Eli for the first time, it was like, dare I say, intimidating. Yeah. He's huge. And like when you're talking about the eyeball test, the frame, the hand size, all that stuff, what you're basically talking about, Singer, is those are NFL guys.
Mm-hmm.
They're not overly muscle bound. They're not like jacked or whatever. They're just huge people. They carry the weight. Like, oh, you look at Eli and you're like, damn, he's 250 and he looks like he's 225, right? But yeah, Eli is man, I mean, he could be really good.
Yeah. I'm with you. The make or break, like this is the ability to make and be like a really special player in a special season. So I like that, Mike.
Yep.
I think we're kind of throwing this young man in the same category, and it's Emil Wagner from Wayne High School. Of course, the same high school that produced Mike Mickens and Marcus Freeman. Now, if Notre Dame just kind of goes with what they had in the bowl game, you can have Tosh Baker and Charles Jagasaw as your starting tackles. What does that mean for Emil Wagner? Would he slide inside? Would being on the interior help him more? Can he put on more weight? Like this is a huge season for Emil Wagner. It's like, all right, you're not the young guy. You're not really the guy right now where it's like, all right, you still got time to put on mass. Like this is year 3.
Yeah. And I've talked about this quite a bit. Like when you're going through this as a player, dude, especially like as a highly recruited kid, which he was, it's like there comes a time, and I had that conversation with my strength coach, Mickey Marotti, who's now at Ohio State. Love the man. And I was like, dude, I got to start. And he was like, okay, bet. And then he just rode my ass, that winter conditioning, and that just pushed me, and like basically made me put my money where my mouth was. And that's where Emil Wagner's at. It's like, you mean to tell me, Emil, you can't put on 10 more pounds? Like it's just impossible.
If he would hang out with me, man, it's easy for me to do,
dude. I mean, yeah. I mean, we're older, so it's a lot easier to put on the weight. But it's like, but then you sit there and go, is that a Lauren Landau deal where it's like, do you let a player like that skip every other quote unquote conditioning session, running session, so he's not burning those excess calories? I don't know. Is it a vanity thing where you don't want to have a little bit of a pooch belly because you still want to be able to fit in a certain size? I don't know what's going on, but it's like, brother, put the weight on. He's an NFL in terms of his movement skills. I mean, he's an NFL tackle, length, movement. I was a little surprised to see Jagasaw starting at tackle. I did say that he would start as a freshman, and he did. But I think there's going to be a lot of retooling and shuffling at that offensive line. There's a lot of talented kids there. And what spot are they going to be, the best fit at? Time will tell. But Emil Wagner, winter conditioning, getting up to 295, 300. It's like, it's time. It's time.
Yeah. If it is Jagasaw and Baker at tackle, would you think if Wagner gets up to 295, 300, he can slide inside?
Sure.
Okay. Yeah, with that athleticism, dude, him pulling.
Yeah, I mean, it comes down to where it's a different offense, it's a different scheme, So it's like, is Denbrock going to look at all the tools at his disposal? And offensive line, I mean, those are tools. We think of tools, we think of toys, we think of backs, receivers, etc. It's like, what are their skill sets? What are their strengths? Is Emil going to be? He's an incredibly athletic puller out in space versus do we want him running duo all day long, leaning on people, right? But just another super talented kid, very heavily recruited, highly rated, deservedly so. It's like, bro, you've had 2 years plus to put on 25, 30 pounds. It's like, make it happen. Other kids do it all day, every day, all over the country.
Yeah. Speaking of highly rated and highly recruited, that was Rocco Spindler back in the 2021 class. Yeah, he's headed into his senior year at Notre Dame, 4th season, 6'5", 319 pounds. Yeah, I mean, he was one of those, Mike, where when he signed with Notre Dame back in that 21 cycle, it was, he was like the beloved recruit in that class. And among a few, that was the same class with Buckner and Fisher and this guy Alt. But yeah, hasn't, he got injured, but, jury's still out. Would you agree with that, Mike?
Not necessarily. I mean, you know how my thoughts on Rocco. I mean, I was never, when you look at his recruitment, and this is the interesting thing where it's like recruiting for a lot of these kids, recruiting in and of itself can be like a star maker for these kids. Whereas like Rocco was a kid that I think always loved Notre Dame, but he also loved recruiting. He liked the attention. We kidded about it. We were like half kidding, half joking. He looks the part. I mean, he looks like a big, tough, badass dude. His dad played, I think, in the NFL for a little bit. But I just never saw the foot speed with him. And then I never saw, like, when you really got into that high school film, I never saw the dominance, especially because he is one of the bigger offensive linemen that we have, thickly built, big, thick ankles, which isn't indicative of athleticism. It's actually like a bad thing, but I just never saw him really moving people. So this is going to be a year for him where it's like, get back healthy. We'll see how it shakes out. We'll see how it shakes out with Rocco. Owen Strebig is another one of those kids. I think Owen Strebig loves Notre Dame, but he also loves recruiting. It's like, it's not that it's a red flag for me, but I don't want my offensive lineman to be enamored with the recruiting process. Give me a Charles Jagasaw, give me a Gerby Lambert, dude. They don't tweet, they don't post videos, they don't do interviews. That's what we want.
I agree. It's not like a red flag, like, oh, this guy can't do well. Blake Fisher was a big he committed to Notre Dame very, very early, but he also loved, kind of the different attention and whatnot on social media. But I do prefer my offensive linemen to, again, it's not a bad thing. It's just a preference thing. I like them to be
can we
six tweets a year.
Yeah. It's let's spend 3 minutes talking about this. There is something, and I went through this. There is something to everybody and their mother, every recruiting publication, every college coach, your high school teammates, your community, everybody just putting you on a pedestal as a 16, 17-year-old young man. Like, it's like if you reference like a Blake Fisher, super highly recruited, 5-star kid, enjoyed the process, liked the attention. Did he ever get any better at Notre Dame? The one thing was like he lost a bunch of weight to try to make his foot. I don't know if he ever got better. Whereas like you look at, his counterpart, Joe Alt, just got better and better and better. So I guess what the contention I'm making, like as these 5-star kids, they get so much attention that maybe they don't think that they like have to get better. Like, I'm the shit. I've already arrived. I do think that there's an element, case by case, but there's an element to that. Like when you said Blake Fisher loved recruiting, I'm like, I don't think he ever got any better. Started as a true freshman. I just don't think he ever really got better. Anyway.
Interesting. Give me 30 seconds, Mike. If season started today,
oh God, here we go.
What would you want as the offensive line?
I feel like I knew you'd ask. Do I have to say which position, or can I just say which names?
Just 2 tackles, 2 guards, and a center. You don't need to give me sides of the ball.
I'd like to see Wagner at tackle.
Okay.
I'd like to see Jagasaw. Let me just work it
out. Yeah.
Romy and Michelle post-it note here. All right, Jagasaw, tackle. Excuse me, guard.
Guard, yep. Wagner, tackle.
Wagner, tackle.
Shrouth, guard.
Shrouth, guard.
Craig, center.
I'm sorry. Yeah, Craig. Yeah, that's a done deal. Craig, center. So we got another tackle. I'm okay with Baker being your tackle. I'm okay with it. Yeah. I was going through these names last night. You got Rocco is kind of in the mix potentially as a guard. What's his face? Kristofic left the program. But that to me, if you had Craig at center, Jagasaw at a guard, Shrouth at a guard, Baker as a tackle, and Wagner as a tackle, I like it.
Yeah.
It's been a starter for us before. You know,
it's young, but it's good.
Yeah. Well, dude. Give me the biggest, best athletes as possible at the offensive line, and then figure it out. And then again, you've got a mobile quarterback. So if there are a few quote unquote busts, etc., we can work around it.
Okay. All right, we're going to continue on, Mr. Goolsby. Tyson Ford heading into his junior season at Notre Dame. What are you thinking about him right now?
I'm frustrated with Tyson Ford, man. You know, I love the high school film. It was pretty clear to me that he was going to be a 3 technique. I can remember watching the Kansas City Chiefs last night. My fun comp, as I do, was Chris Jones. You know, the all-pro, like 3 technique, just the size, like the power. But he's gone back and forth, and I think Tyson wants to play big end. And it's just like, buddy, like we've seen this movie before with Riley Mills. It's just like, let nature take its course. Let yourself get kicked down inside, especially with Rubio now having left the program. Brother, go play 3 technique. That's where your future is. Take your ego out of it. I know you want to be this like crazy athletic defensive end. That ain't you. Go play 3 technique and go dominate. Let yourself put on the extra 10, 20 pounds and go dominate. You know?
Yeah. I've given the story before, but I remember my best buddy in high school, he was a 2-way lineman. He was a guard and a defensive tackle. He so badly wanted to be a tackle and a defensive end. Those guys often, when you're kind of a tweener between a guard or a tackle or a defensive end or a defensive tackle, the guys always want to play on the outside. It's just the sexier position. So I feel like that might be kind of Tyson Ford. Like, you want to be the pass rusher. You want to be the guy getting the sacks. You don't like being the guy getting double teamed all the time. You want to be stuffing the stat sheets with, pressures and whatnot. So,
and that's a scenario that could lead to, a transfer. He was a highly recruited kid. And it's just like, dude, if everybody sees and says the same thing, that you're a 3 technique and you're the only one in your universe, maybe your parents or whomever think you can go play end. It's like, this is, again, guys that have been in the program for a couple of years, you kind of have to do some soul searching, look in the mirror. I still think he has all the potential in the world, but just really embrace being a 3 technique. I mean, you can get sacks, you can rush the passer as a 3 technique as well. And I think that Riley Mills is, an interesting case study. It's like last year, dude, whatever, his 4th, 5th year in the program, he finally submits and goes and plays 3 tech, like consistently, and then now this will be his 2nd year specifically at that position. So yeah, Tyson, go play 3 technique and have a kick-ass spring, man.
Yeah. Yeah. The youngest guy on this list, I believe, Adon Schuler, being a sophomore, going into sophomore season at Notre Dame.
Oh yeah.
I'm thinking make or break here. This is just kind of a really good opportunity for a safety to emerge next to Xavier Watts. Is that kind of where you're thinking for him?
Yeah, well, that and yes. And you brought in some of these transfers, like the Northwestern kid, Clark's son, the Arizona State kid's going to play nickel. It's just like, yeah, I mean, Adon looks the part, physically a super impressive kid. And it's just like, don't let any of these transfers take your job. That's my whole thing. It's more of a challenge. It's not like, oh, make or break, you're running out of time, Adon, but just like rise to the occasion this spring. Cause I'm not blown away by any of these secondary transfer guys. I'm not.
Okay.
So, and that's just the thing where it's like, not that you're calling Adon Schuler out, but just, man, go take advantage of this spring.
Okay. Well, and then wrapping up, saving one of the best for last, Mike. Jalen Sneed.
Yeah, dude.
On 3 5-star recruit. Well, I actually think he ended up as the number 33 overall player. It's a different discussion for a different day. We can talk about rankings, I'm sure, soon enough, Mike, if I just want to get myself worked up. But anyways, Jalen Sneed going into his junior season, Mike. What do you think?
I just wrote down enigmatic. I mean, he is an enigma. I mean, freaky talented, can do so many things. You would never imagine a kid his size could be the pass rusher that he's developed into. But if we're going to stick with this trend of only playing 2 linebackers and our base is out of a nickel, and I still hold out hope that there's going to be a 3-3-5. There's way too many linebackers on the roster for 10 of these kids to be competing for 2 spots. It just doesn't, again, compute to me. But yeah, this is your spring, Jalen. I mean, Marist is gone. You're going to get the reps. It's like, go slide in as a will, and just show those coaches enough during spring in terms of being assignment correct that they can start to build trust with you. Because if you're 3 years into the program, guy, and it's like, if it doesn't click by now, like, not that they're going to move on from you or whatever, you're going to ride the bench, but it's like you will be just kind of relegated to that pass rusher, gadget guy into the future. And it's not to say that you're not going to have a hell of an NFL career or whatever, but it's like, man, what an opportunity for you this spring. If I'm him, dude, I'm spending a lot of time with Jack Kaiser. If I'm Coach Burrow, Max Burrow, the linebacker coach, I'm asking Jack Kaiser to spend a lot of time with Jalen Sneed, and just in terms of getting extra work, getting caught up in terms of understanding the playbook. But yeah, man, this is a big spring for Jalen Sneed.
Reading the YouTube chat, when we were discussing the offensive line, Mike, we didn't bring up Pat Coogan. He could be another one who easily is a starter.
He's mid. I'd say he's mid. He was, he's Notre Dame will have like 2 or 3 guys on the offensive line go to the league and have fruitful careers in the NFL. But there's always like that offensive line always is like spotted with just a guy, like Kristofic has been a starter. He's just a guy. Tosh Baker can start to a degree. He's just a guy. And I mean, Coogan's a Chicago Catholic kid, like a Catholic League kid. I'm rooting for him. But to me, there's elements there of him just being a guy in terms of like, there's not that ceiling that a Jagasaw, a Wagner, et cetera has. You with me on that? So sure, he can be a starter. I'm not going to lose sleep over it. But in terms of having like a dominant unit, I'd be okay if he was a backup.
5 minutes wrapping up, Mike. What else is on your mind? What else do you want to talk about?
Oh, let me look at my note. There's an interesting thing here about Freeman's recruiting. And because I spent some time just looking down that online roster, the heights and weights listed. And it's like, I love a lot of the recruits, and they are getting better and better and better. And I truly mean that. Hook me up to a lie detector test. Like, I like the prior year's class. I like this year's class more. I look at the 2025 class. I like it more than the 2024 class. These guys are twitchy. They're long, but some of them are small. Like, they're small weight-wise. And when we talk about the introduction of Lauren Landau having to work with this large of a group of young men, and he's kind of a performance-oriented guy, think old school like plyometrics, you know, for like a lay person. What is Landau going to do to get the weight up on some of these kids? You know, so it's like, we love the way that the movement skills, we love the explosiveness, but like Logan Thomas, bro, he's listed at 197 pounds as a defensive end. You know, it's like, oh, I love the get off and I love his ability to run, but like, get real. You know, you're sub 200 pounds. So that's just an interesting thing for me to watch. We love Freeman and team. We love their ability to assess talent, to project talent. We're like, oh, we're some of these lower ranked. Oh, I love the way that his skill set translates. But that kid's a 3-star. Love the movement, love the explosiveness, etc. He's not a 4-star, 5-star because he's 20 pounds lighter than he ought to be. So how does that play out into the future? That's just something that I'm interested in taking a look at and kind of watching that play out in that whole conversation surrounding Coach Landau in his first offseason with this group. It should be fun. Unless you've got any other super chats or questions that popped out to you. I'm in no rush.
The last thing that I wanted to ask you about, Mike, just looking at your notes, just your note on the identity of the team. What were you thinking about with that topic?
Yeah, well, I think the identity / like who's the leaders now, and that's a big offseason thing. I don't really have the answer, but it's like, you know, Freeman wanted to basically build the program around line play, both offensive and defensive. Like, is that still the case? You know, so if that's the case, like we just went over that O-line room, like who in that room is going to assert themselves as an alpha dominant type? You know, you're losing a lot of leadership on defense, you know, and I basically, I'm pointing at JD Bertrand, you know, just kind of the get you lined up guy. New strength coach, new offensive coordinator. That's just something to keep tabs on. Is like, who does this team want to be? And how does that offseason program, like, does it, when you shake it out, you know, who are the leaders in the building?
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. When I think back to like that Kyron Williams team,
yeah,
right. The Kyron Williams, you know, the year he ran that 91-yard touchdown, I think it was against North Carolina. Like, that team was not very, you know, explosive throwing the football down the field. That's 2021, right? Who would have been the quarterback that season? I'm honestly asking.
No, it would have been
the
both
Cone. Whatever. But like Kyron Williams was like the heartbeat of that team. Like that, it was like, we're running the football, right? We're play action, like Mayor, Kyron, like. But this past season, I'm just thinking about the identity of the offense, I should say. Like, I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know.
But we tend to look at, I mean, I thought Mitch Evans had a little bit of shit to him in terms of like his leadership. I mean, you know, Joe Walt, as great of a player as he is, I mean, he's still young. You always looked at Joe Walt as like a young kid. Maybe it's because I don't know if he's shaving yet. He's going to be worth $50 million in a few months here. I don't even know if he shaves. Forget the Gillette sponsor deal for Joe Walt, but yeah, that's the conversation. Is like, you know, Kenneth Snead, who's a super energetic guy bouncing off the walls, like, does his identity get infused into the defense? You know, like a Mickey, you know. Xavier Watts is a super quiet dude. You know, you're going to look at Xavier to be a leader, but not to say that he's a poor leader, but he won't be necessarily a boisterous vocal motivator, rah-rah guy, right? He's dependable in that way. Mills, Cross, are they like super vocal? You know, so the identity of the team reflects leadership and vice versa. So it's just all of this stuff is getting played out at 5:30 in the morning on these early morning workouts and stuff. All of that's it's going to kind of play itself out. It's just something that I think about, and not something that necessarily worries me, Mike, but just something to think about, something to consider.
Okay. All right, Mr. Goolsby, we are going to wrap it up right there, folks. If you have not done so yet, as we just hit the hour mark, hit the thumbs up on this video. Of course, subscribe to our channel for more content. Mike, we'll have to talk soon about the cadence for our off-season shows with you, because we got to, if we just say, oh, we'll do them and we do them, it can be tough for me to stay on track. So
It's all good. I'm always around, man.
We'll have to do it maybe every other week or so.
That's what I'd shoot for that. And then, I mean, we're inching closer and closer to spring, with the Patreon thing. Like, I'm trying to build a lot of momentum, bring a lot of they're bringing a lot of former players back to get some interviews and all that. So, we'll ramp stuff up as we get closer and closer to spring ball.
Yeah. So definitely check out Goolsby's Patreon for more of that, like the former player stuff. I do want to get the one former player on this show that me and you were talking about when I was in San Antonio, Mike. I'm sure you remember that. I don't want to say the name just in case it doesn't happen, but I really want to get him on the show, just because that was such a unique experience with me meeting him for the first time and not really knowing his background and all that good stuff. So
that scenario was something that happened organically.
Yeah.
You kind of bumped into the guy, and that tends to be the best stuff, is stuff that just hops up organically. So yeah, we can do that.
Really good story that I hope that he'll be able to share. So anyways, that's going to put it there, folks. Again, please hit the thumbs up, subscribe to the channel if you have not done so yet. Follow Mike on Twitter at Mike Goolsby 41. Check out his Patreons and his link in his Twitter bio. blueandgold.com is your home for Notre Dame football coverage and on the recruiting side as well, folks. So again, really appreciate you for tuning in. And as always, we will catch you next time.